I should start streaming to Rumble. That's what I should do. Just inject the progressivism right into their veins.
Honestly, like it'd be interesting to test their like free speech, quote unquote free speech mantra about that platform.
Yeah.
We
I
just take it
mean,
over.
I
We could
don't
just
believe
take it
it.
over.
Yeah, I say go for it. I think they're full of shit. I think they'll ban me anyway.
Yeah.
Can somebody type in the Twitch chat to make sure it's actually working?
I see you moving now. Just
Oh,
got
well that's an improvement. I Yeah, this is why Vosh streams.
all right, y'all. I gotta head out and get ready for bed. It is I gotta be up with the baby in the morning, but this is very exciting.
All
TV
right.
members had a big role in this.
Yep, we all worked hard. Um, Thank you again so much for like motivating us and for putting all of this together for all of us to be able to come together and work to be able to actually have an impact.
Oh, it's. I mean, you all are the ones with the ambitions, and I'm just hopeful I can arrange more and more resources to pump into it. So,
Yeah. All right.
thanks, y'all.
Good night.
Have a
You.
lovely, victorious evening. Bye bye.
Bye. All right. Let's see if we can actually get some of these things back up. Video capture. Window capture. There we go. Window capture. New window. Select. Bernie Sanders. God, I love being a streamer. All right. Window capture again. Window, new source. Select. Uh, Wisconsin Supreme Court. Well, that one didn't. Did it just freeze again? What happened there? There we go. Somebody link my stream again in chat, please. Thank you. All right, let's actually get back to the election coverage. Thank you so much for the 100 bits. Hey, TJ Soup, I see you. I see that. I see what you tweeted. Or twitched, or whatever the fuck. I hate commies. Hate to tell you, but you might be surrounded by them.
Now own more wealth than the bottom 90%. CEOs make 300 times more than their average worker.
Wisconsin. All right,
And
41% reporting. I should probably actually. 41% reporting. We are destroying them. Unironically destroying them. I love to see it. All right, where were we?
Real inflation accounted for wages today.
That was a
The
fun
average
intermission.
American worker, if you can believe it, despite a massive increase in worker productivity, is lower today than it was 52 years ago. And during that period, there was a $75 trillion transfer of wealth that went from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That is the reality of the American economy today. And you know what? Maybe we might want to be talking about that. And in our America today, in that top America, that one America, the 1% are completely separate and isolated from the rest of the country. You think they get on a subway to get to work? You think they sit in a traffic jam for an hour trying to get to work?
They use their helicopters.
Not the case. They fly
Are
around
you suffering, Benjamin?
in the helicopters
All times,
that they
yes.
own. They live in their mansions all over the world in their gated communities.
Oh,
They
I live in one of
taking
those.
care of their babies. They don't worry about the cost of child care. And they send their kids to the best private schools and colleges. Sometimes they vacation, not in a Motel 6, not in a national park, but on the very own islands that they have. And on occasion, for the very richest, just to have, for a kick, have a little bit of fun, maybe they'll spend a few $1 million.
Anyone who uses the word commie is cringe.
True. In one of their own spaceships. Sounds like fun. But it's not just income, massive income and wealth inequality that we're dealing with today. We have more concentration of ownership than ever before. While the profits on Wall Street and corporate America soar, a handful of giant corporations dominate sector after sector, whether it's agriculture, transportation, media, financial services, et cetera, et cetera. Small number of huge corporations, international corporations, dominating sector after sector. And as a result of that concentration of ownership, they are able to charge the American people outrageously high prices for the goods and services we need. Mr. President, we don't talk about it too much. Maybe we should. But there are 3 Wall Street firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, that combined
become a dues-paying member to Progressive Victory.
In 95% of our
42% reporting. We're still destroying them.
3 Wall Street firms, 3, are the major stockholders in 95% of American corporations. So, Mr. President, that is one America. People on top doing phenomenally well. Not only do they have economic power, they have enormous political power. That's what's going on there. They live like kings. That's one America, but there is another America. And in that other America, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And millions of workers from one end of this country to the other are trying to survive on starvation wages. And unlike Donald Trump, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, and I know the anxiety.
Unlike Trump,
that
Bernie lived with a family. You heard it here first, folks. Trump is fatherless and unloved. She's predicted to win. They pseudo just called the race. As soon as they do, I can go to bed. As soon as they call the superintendent race, specifically. As soon as...
Mom and Dad have living in a rent-controlled
She's
apartment.
already asleep.
Can we afford to buy this? Why did you buy that? And that's the story taking place all over
This one
America.
might take a lot longer to call.
What does living paycheck to paycheck mean? It means that every single day, millions of Americans worry about how they're going to pay their rent or their mortgage all over the country. Rents are skyrocketing, and people are wondering, what happens? What happens to me and my kids if rent goes up by 20%? And I can't afford it. Where do I live? Do I have to take my kid out of school? Where do I put my kid? In worst case
Misgendered
scenario,
your own
do
bird? I didn't
live
say-
in
I
my
said
car?
she.
Let's be clear. There are many people who are working today.
By the way, speaking
who
of
are-
misgendering a bird, I actually saw this really incredible study about a bird that was living in a community with a different species, and it would take the molted feathers from the other species and like pluck it into its body and sort of wear that feathers. And they made the analogy of this being like a trans bird, and was basically saying, in a sense, it was physically hurting itself in order to like fit with the other birds and to be like fit in with it. And they kind of analogized this to like to gender dysphoria. And I think that should be really reaffirming to any trans people here listening, that no matter what species, this is all the same thing, that we're all feeling the same expressions, that this is absolutely a fundamental natural characteristic. So I think you should all find that. Unironically ban Aussie. What the fuck? Why? Why have you posted this? All right, what is this track? This is the kind of Trackmania track that I unironically hate because it makes me think too much. Oh, for fuck's sake. There we go.
are living in the back of their cars.
I didn't even know Trackmania still existed.
How do I pay for
Olive.
childcare?
What?
Talk to a-
Whose fucking stream have you been watching? It's been here the whole time. What do you mean? I've been playing it. It's called Trackmania Nations
God,
Forever.
you're
No,
a
it's
police
Trackmania
officer.
2020.
Spends
It's free to
$20,000
try.
a year for
You should
childcare.
get it. It's good.
How do I buy decent food for my kids when the price of groceries
Where are we at?
is off the
45%
charts?
reporting?
What happens if I get sick or my kid gets sick or my mother gets sick and I got a $12,000 deductible and I can't afford
been there.
to go to the doctor? How at the end of the month am I going to pay my credit card bill
Oh my God, my
even though I'm
knees.
being charged 20 or 30% interest rates by the usurious credit card companies? People are worrying about simple things. What happens if my car breaks down and the guy at the repair shop says it's going to cost $1,000 and I don't have $1,000 in the bank?
You heard it here
And if I
first,
don't have
folks.
a car,
Bernie is
how do I
broke.
get
Give
to
him
work?
money.
And if I don't get to work, how do I have an income? And if I don't have an income, how do I take care of my family? Those are the crises that millions of Americans are experiencing today. But it's not just working age Americans. Today in our country, half of older workers have nothing in the bank as they face retirement. And they're watching TV and they're seeing Mr. Musk firing Social Security workers and actually worrying whether Social Security will be there for them. And it's not just older workers with nothing in the bank wondering what happens when they retire. 22% of seniors are trying to survive on
Thoughts on bisexuals? I could go either way.
$15,000 a year. I dare anybody in this country, let alone somebody who's old, who needs health care, needs to keep the house warm, try to survive on $15,000 a year. And there are people here, by the way, talking about cutting Social Security. Mr. President, it is not just about income and wealth inequality.
40% of the vote.
It is about a health care system which everyone in the nation understands is broken,
They called it.
is
Not here.
dysfunctional, and is
By the way,
outrageously
none of you motherfuckers got that bisexual joke. I'm very disappointed.
expensive. I hear my Republican friends, I don't know where they are today, wanting to destroy the ACA. And my Democratic friends say, oh, we got to defend the ACA.
Okay, one of
ACA
you
is broken.
motherfuckers caught it.
It doesn't work. In my state, the cost of health care is going up 10, 15%. In America today, you got 85 million people uninsured or underinsured. Function of the healthcare system today is not to do what a sane society would do, guarantee health care to all people in a cost-effective way.
10
Something
o'clock.
which, by the
Oh
way,
my
every
God.
other major nation on earth manages to do. The function of our healthcare system, as everybody knows, is to make billions of dollars in profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies. So I say to my Democratic friends, it's not good enough to defend the Affordable Care Act. It's a broken system. You got to have the guts to stand up and allow us to do what every other major nation does.
Let's begin with
Guarantee
Florida, where
healthcare.
NBC News just called the race in Florida's
I'm
6th
curious.
congressional district.
Let's see how they frame it.
Republican Randy Fine is projected to win there. This is the seat that was vacated by Mike Waltz, who joined the Trump cabinet as national security advisor. Meanwhile, the 1st district has not yet been called. Republican
It
Jimmy
has been.
Petronas and Democrat Gay Valmont are on the ballot there. That's the seat that was vacated by former Congressman
Unironically, crazy move. On B, do not ban. Hold on, I want to see this. And on B, ban all of them. Fucking take your goddamn knife and just run it across their comatose body. Just destroy them. Unironically crazy though to have a person named Gay run in the most conservative district in Florida. Genuinely, we should have found somebody who had the first name like I don't know. What's something Republicans like? I don't know. I've never met a Republican. Yeah, we should have had it been like a man and a male guy named I don't know. Fuck it. Have a guy. Let's just get a guy named Donald Trump. Let's just rename all of our politicians to be called Donald Trump. I think that's the correct way to do it. I think we'll win. We'll win at least one seat because of that. Yeah. George, vote for me. That's what the name should be.
Matt Gaetz. And Marissa, let's start with you in Florida there. What's the reaction been thus far to Randy Fine's win? Was this expected in the district?
Hey, so I actually want to show you what we're seeing right now. So we are outside of the watch party for Democrat Josh Wheel. And if I'm going to step out, you'll be able to see him speaking to not only voters, but of course, people that worked on his campaign. And I want to read you a couple of quotes that he just said in that room. He said, in the end, they outvoted us. But we heard a lot of applause. You can hear it now because one of the things that everyone here is so focused on is that narrowed margin, because they always knew this was an uphill battle, Ellison, and the messaging has been clear from the start. When it comes to these deeply Republican districts, everyone knew how well that President Trump had performed, and of course, how well these politicians whose seats were left vacant, Michael Waltz and Matt Gaetz, they had also performed very well in these districts. So right now, the messaging here is one of optimism, even though he just conceded. It is still one of optimism.
I remember
because
when
something
politicians
that we
weren't
heard Steve
doing that.
Bernanke talk about, and
Fuck
something
it, he
we are
shouldn't have
seeing is
conceded.
that narrowed margin. And for them, that is a sign of hope, Ellison, and that is something.
He shouldn't have conceded. He should have just been like, the Republicans, they shipped in 2,000 Nazis. They brought in the groomers, 2,000 Epstein associates.
Thing that we have heard from the start with both Democrat challengers in these districts. Again, there's two different races. We're in the 6th congressional district, which encompasses Daytona Beach, but there is another race happening where those polls just closed, because remember, Florida's a big state. Part of the state is in it's the central time zone. So we have those polls that just closed. That's the 1st congressional district, which encompasses Pensacola, the Panhandle, and we heard more or less the same kind of messaging when it comes to the Democrat candidates. That's Gay Vallimont in the 1st congressional district.
Vallimont?
And I will add, in terms of the reaction, of course,
No
we have
way that's how
State
it's
Senator
pronounced.
Randy Fine,
No
who
fucking
had
way.
posted on social media his thanks and appreciation for President Trump, who had heavily endorsed him. But I will say another part of the messaging, Allison, and this one is interesting. There
No
was
way.
some fear and concern from Republicans, and I think that's very telling when we talk about that narrowed margin here.
Talk to us about what you've been hearing today from voters in that area, Marissa.
Well, that same kind of concern. And I saw a lot of voters telling me that this was their very first time voting in a special election. I'll tell you a little bit more about how that factors into what we heard from voters, why they showed up. But first, I want you to hear for yourself.
I just hope that the other Republicans out there aren't too lax and that they realize these elections are very important too, and they should come down and vote.
Did Trump's endorsement of Randy Fine affect you not voting for him because you're not happy with the president's decision so far?
I think it has more to do with the administration and a lot of things that they're trying to push through. Not necessarily the endorsement, but where and how things are moving.
So as you can hear, the celebration resuming here. But Ellison, if I were to put a fine point on the theme of today between voters and campaigns, it was a turnout that I think a lot of people, I'm going to move out so you can hear me a little bit better. It was a turnout that we saw a lot of people coming out in a way that a lot of people did not expect. Their first time voting in a special election, but we also saw those margins narrowed. So Ellison, I'm going to toss it back to you.
All right, Marissa Parra on the ground there in Florida. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to have you on. I want to tell you, I really do enjoy your writing. I follow the, I don't know what they're called now, Substack blog? Substack. And I read your books. I always find them, I don't necessarily make
Okay, I'm back, everybody. Let's actually watch the Jon Stewart clip. I've been waiting for this.
maybe agree with all of it, but I always find it really interesting, in really good faith. This is this idea of the new right on the economy. Can you explain what's the deviation from previous orthodoxy and sort of what that entails?
Sure. I think the best way to understand it is that we went through a period of 30 or 40 years where conservatives just had way too much.
Literally 13% ahead in Wisconsin. We're destroying them, guys.
Great outcomes. And markets can give you great outcomes, but they don't guarantee great outcomes. And so conservatives have been seeing, especially over the last decade, a lot of the things we care about, things everybody cares about. Do jobs pay enough to support a family?
Right.
Are we too dependent on China for everything?
I don't like this guy's framing immediately. So, by and large, people don't like capitalism because people don't know what it is. What people like is markets. That's what people like. What do people hate? The stock market. That's the capitalism. Markets, that's normal.
Computer chips in this country. Markets were perfectly happy to give us really bad answers on those questions. And so conservatives are starting to say, well, wait a minute, we actually have to care about this and we have to be prepared to do something about it.
Now, when you say this at the meeting with the other conservative economists, do they go, leave us? Like, it really seems like that is fundamental heresy on, I've listened for years. The reason we can't do sort of social engineering or social policy or redistribution of wealth is the government's not in the business of picking winners and losers. That is now The new right is saying, actually, we do.
Good.
I think that's right. The new right is saying, actually,
that's
there are
an
some
improvement, by the way. The government's job is to pick winners and losers in the economy. That's literally its explicit job. It is what it's done the entire time. And this fixation on the idea of the laissez-faire, the government shouldn't have any impact on the economy. It was actively done to undermine the idea of what government can do for people.
we really want to see win.
What are you people
And
talking about?
That's what politics is. What would politics be if you just pretended you sort of didn't care about anything? You'd sort of have a lot of the very uninspiring Republican politics of the last few decades, I would say.
Now, you started...
Uninspiring.
You worked with Mitt Romney, who was...
I don't think that's how I characterize Republican politics the last few years. I wouldn't use the word uninspiring. I'd use fucking psychotic.
Is considered the avatar of that. Was he open to this idea? Where did it start to find traction for you that a more activist government, this sort of idea of economic policy as kind of social engineering, when did it start to gain traction?
I mean, for me, it actually started working with then Governor Romney. Like you said, he was conventional in a lot of ways. One of the issues I was responsible for with him was trade policy. And we brought him the very typical, here's what Republicans say about trade briefing. And he said, well, that's fine, but what are we going to do about China? And to your point about all the other conservative economists in the room, they were, what are you talking about? We don't do anything about China. If China wants to send us cheap stuff, we say, thank you very much.
In the meeting, what does it sound like when the monocles fall out of the eyes? Does it clink? It just feels like one of those
there was the
Great Poupon!
The gasps can be disturbing.
Yes.
To your point, there's a lot of religious fervor, frankly, on what I would call the old right about some of these ideas. And when someone says something very common sense, like, well, wait a minute, maybe, an authoritarian communist government that's trying to hollow out American manufacturing, like, maybe that's not really free market.
John, please destroy this guy.
Right.
I was like, wow, that's a really important point. And I was the one assigned to kind of go off and try to figure it out. And what I discovered was that on the right of center, really going back to the mid-1980s, there had just been no thinking.
He did not destroy this guy.
Of protecting that manufacturing base or our industrial center. And then I think in COVID, you saw everyone kind of paused and went, oh, we don't have supply lines to make paper masks. Like, we don't have anything. Was that where you saw it really get a foothold?
I think on the right of center, it was the China problem was active even before COVID.
Right.
Because I think, one thing, and it's important to say, this is a fairly recent conservative phenomenon. If you go back in the history of conservatism, even if you look at Ronald Reagan himself, Reagan was a trade protectionist. He basically started a trade war with Japan because he did care about these things.
This was in the days of Japanese car makers were making cars that were cheaper. People were preferring them. They were dominating the market in America.
And Reagan negotiated an outright quota that Japan, not even a tariff, Japan will not increase the number of cars it sends into America. And that's why we now have the American auto industry in the South. Honda and Toyota make American cars, essentially, because somebody like Reagan was willing to recognize trade is good if it's fair and balanced. But
now, I've read though mixed things about whether or not that 5 years later it actually gave too much leverage to these Japanese countries, and they got to drive very hard bargains for American labor in the South. For instance, they didn't build them in Michigan. They didn't build them where union labor was. They undercut union labor in some respects.
They did choose to go to states with non-union labor.
Right.
The way that the unions were behaving at the time was one of the reasons that U.S. automakers were falling behind. That level of inflexibility was a real challenge. And that's also something that you saw Reagan really take on and confront. So I don't think there are a lot of people in the American South today who would say, boo, we wish these automakers hadn't come. It was an enormous gain, and the investments have led to much higher productivity over time.
Right.
So I think that's the story of what we want to see more of. And
bringing that back and giving the country a resilience that losing that base actually cost us. And this brings us to Liberation Day, which is April 2nd?
April 2nd.
April 2nd. Mark it down. Liberation Day. The Trump tariffs, we don't know what they are, but we know they'll work.
The internet crash again? We doing this? Oh my God.
And that we will live on Mars in what, 8 weeks? I don't know what's going to happen. Do you know what's going to happen on Liberation Day?
I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that there has, rightly been at this point a lot of criticism.
Do you think they're actually going to do the tariffs? Yes. Yes, I think they're going to do the tariffs. Stream still going? Thank you.
The way that the Trump administration has been rolling a lot of this out is just leaving too many questions. That if you want to do this right, you need certainty and predictability, clear communication.
All right, I can only... Jon Stewart can only make boring Reaganite dipshit palatable for so long. Let's go with something dumb. Okay, yes, please. Sorry, Vosh. I've been waiting.
Doesn't the vaccine save lives?
Correct, it lowers the death rate. It doesn't prevent it 100%.
Okay, so why are people dying?
Because it's not 100%.
Jesus Christ. Mom, you're in the video again. Rare mom cameo. Yeah, I'm covering the mic. You shouldn't run. You should run. Go. I'm covering it. Oh yeah, Kiana says hi. Hi. Yeah. You do realize these are like the most autistic nerds on the planet. No one would care that you're in pajamas. You're gonna steal my mom? Can I uncover the camera now? Okay. Thank you. Bye. And just like that, we have 63% reporting. What were we doing? You'll only care if the pajamas are ugly? You might care then.
I would like to start.
Please tell me that was clipped.
Saying that HIV does not cause AIDS. AIDS is actually brought on when your white cell count goes below 200.
Bro.
So to say that HIV causes AIDS is inaccurate information. It's actually when your blood cell count goes below 200.
Okay. I never really got this conspiracy theory. I don't even know what I don't understand what the take is on it. Like, what are you getting at? Like, what's the point, I guess? RFK Jr. also believes this, by the way. I just don't... It came about during the AIDS crisis. I just don't know. Yeah, so they think, like, AIDS is, like, created by the CIA? I don't know. I don't understand.
From 2018 to 2023, if we trust the CDC, their numbers say the most deadly thing for our children, the #1 deadly thing, do you happen to know what it is?
Guns.
Accidents.
With guns. Yeah.
2 of the dudes there are the same dudes from the
Jesus fucking Christ. Yes. Accidents.
The Cedar debate.
With gun.
The government pays taxes guy and the yes, I want a Christian theocracy guy. Yeah, because Jubilee is literally just the debate circuit blood sport crowd, except slightly professionalized.
Thanks.
And what you notice and I used to attend these a lot. It's the same with Hippy Dippy that Dylan.
AIDS was invented by Joe McCarthy. Stupid Vosh. True. It's funny. I stream Vosh for 10 seconds and Gwendolyn appears.
Burns did. The same as that, like, Mr. Politics show.
Sleepy Porg permitted the term AIDS. Good to know.
Every one of those guys whose job it was in the context of the debate show to, like, let's get 8 people on to argue. Inevitably, right, the problem that you run into is that people on the left, for the most part, believe the things they say. And people on the right, in order to be able to make a career out of saying right-wing talking points, you have to be a knowing liar, or you have to be genuinely mentally ill. You can't.
Don't worry, Vosh. There are plenty of people on the left who don't believe what they say either. Don't worry.
Can't really be either. And this is ultimately why I stopped doing debates, which is that no one on the other side actually believes anything. Who are those guys in the hippy dippy one who obviously just said whatever? Like, they never engaged in introspection.
This is the issue I have when debating my mom. Yep.
Maybe I don't have a point. Maybe I'm just saying stuff because they didn't care about
reactionary.
They just wanted to talk. Rob Norm.
Reactionary debate. Debating a reactionary is a vibes thing. Yo! Susan Crawford has officially been called. They have won. Get in the stream chat. Give me some. I want to see all you spam. Somebody drop the link to the stream chat. Get in here. I want to see some emote spam. Let's fucking go. Oh. Onby, turn off shield mode. How do I turn it off? How do I? Yes. All right, now spam the wins. There you go. Now I want to see some spams. We've won. We've won Wisconsin. We've utterly fucking destroyed them. More than 10 points. Jesus Christ. All right. Let's see. The race not called here, although I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to kick their ass here too. This should be called any second. This is going to be called any time. Once the superintendent of public instruction race is called, I can get the fuck out of here and eat my dinner. So please, please, God, let this thing end. Let me get out of here.
Or in some other one.
Make Elon cry harder. Hold on. Is that Mech? Make Elon cry harder. Mech. Ooh, I like this. We progressed to a victory. That's true. Make Elon cry harder. Holy shit, that's going hard. We need to put that on a hat. Where's Cam? Where's Cam? God damn, the Wisconsin watch party is stealing all the people. Forgot what winning felt like? I know! We finally won. Congrats, everybody. We did it. Literally, we did it. We phone banked. I actually have the numbers. Hold on. I got some preliminary numbers. Doesn't include today. And yesterday. But 761 phone bank signups, and 486 as of 2 days ago for Wisconsin and Florida, respectively. Now remember, those are people who actually went and did a phone bank and called other people. So each of those people, let's say if they each called 5 people, we're hitting we're like fucking thousands. If each of those people showed up and did a call and had 5 calls, literally thousands and thousands of people reached and called and told to go vote. So, amazing job, everybody. What are the chances this affects the tariffs? If it affects the tariffs, it's not going to be in a good way. I'll say that.
I don't remember. I don't remember. That was pretty much all of them. Well, it's the problem, like, Jubilee isn't real. Lecture fan, that was it. Jubilee's not real. Like, for instance, that gay twink who argued with Sam Cedar, the one who was too stupid to understand what Sam Cedar was saying. Remember? That guy was like, didn't it come out? He was like a failed Hollywood actor who kept going on Jubilee shows over and over again because he's treating it like an audition reel. Like, he goes on there because getting attention is just better. Like, there's no longer any such thing as bad publicity. I know people have said there's no such thing as bad publicity, but it used to be the case that...
I promise you, there is no such thing as bad publicity. As somebody who is quite known in lefty spaces, and not in a good way, there has been zero consequences to my atrocious behavior. I'll say that.
There is. There is bad publicity if you're left-leaning.
Nope, not if you're me.
It is possible
you gotta do it better.
To have bad publicity if you're left-leaning. If you're right-leaning, there is not. Legitimately, there is not. He worked for Jubilee, apparently. Yeah, so what I'm saying essentially is that, like, you can never actually get at the heart of arguing with right-leaning people or conspiracy theorists or vaccine theorists or whatever else in the format of a Jubilee video, because in order to be a public advocate for conservative beliefs, you have to be a grifter. You can't, it's not like a exception thing. You have to be a knowing liar, or you have to be mentally ill. You have to be insane. I don't think all conservatives are liars or insane. I don't think that at all.
This map.
Because most people don't make a living out of projecting their beliefs, right? Arguing them, defending them, making these points. Most people, most conservatives, like 99.99% of conservatives, are just regular guys with
haven't you gotten doxxed?
Beliefs.
Okay, yeah, but that was by like dumbass
just,
Redditors in the autism subreddit, and then the right wingers they doxed me too.
For this? Another thing entirely. Why do you think whenever on Jubilee
and again, even then, I was doxxed. No consequences to that.
People up against them are like earnest college liberals and lefties who want to make the world a better place, and they all believe what they say, like they're clearly sincere about it. But then when you have the opposite, it's like one liberal versus 20 conservatives. It's all like a group of essentially paid actors
fucking despise
show up
this map
recurrently because they're just like the clown team that gets brought on. Like the insincerity of the system is just too much for me, you know? I think Destiny called them all out for basically being paid actors, and they pretended to get offended by it, lol. I mean, yeah, you're never going to get like a parlor room scene with these people where you like collect all the evidence, submit your point, and they're blown away by how good your point is or something. You're never going to get like a turnabout or like an admission of fault or of like, oh, you might have a point or something. Real people can do that, but these people can't because they're not.
Come on,
it's not
fuck
part of the brand image. It's
I
just
hate
professional wrestling. Destiny has a much greater tolerance to that kind of thing than I do, by the way, because he's argued with a lot of plainly insincere people. I don't know. It's like the grappling with the artifice. Oh my God, Kid Rock in the Oval Office live on stream right now. That's great. Thank you.
Hold on. We're gonna finish this. All right, would someone?
The second Trump administration.
All right, we beat this map, but we didn't do it in a way that I felt good about. So fuck me. We're gonna keep going. All right, let's see what other content. Let's feed it into my veins. I actually haven't seen Breaking Points in a while. I'm curious. I know Sagar has been going hard against MAGA lately, so I know he's been getting a lot of shit.
Time to check in now on the tabloid section of Breaking Points. Just can't resist this one. We have got the baby mama drama involving
Jesus
Ashley
Christ.
St. Clair, who alleges that she has a child fathered by Elon Musk. She recently called the paparazzi, well, people are speculating that she called the paparazzi as she sold a Tesla that was given to her to Carvana, saying that she needs to make up for the cut child support from Elon Musk. Let's take a listen.
I'm selling it because I need to make up for the 60% cut that Elon made to our son's child support.
Why do you think that he did that?
That's a great question for him.
Okay, she is hot though. Okay. Sorry, the intrusive thoughts won there.
You feel like he was sort of like vindictive?
The intrusive thoughts won.
Yeah, that's his modus operandi.
AP just called it.
Speak out.
When was the last time that you spoke to him or tried to speak to him?
Alright, well, it's not real until NYT does.
But he's just not responding to you at all. And how would you characterize sort of the way that he's going about you and
You can check the stocks. I'm not the only one who's taking up after his message.
Looks like a Tesla Model X there selling to Carvana, one of many Tesla people who is trading in their car currently.
Does this count?
Let's go
No.
and
And checking the stock price,
and
apparently.
checking the stock price, that's right. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen from Elon. He responds, I don't know if the child is mine or not. I am not against finding out. No court order is needed. Despite not knowing for sure, I have given Ashley $2.5 million, and I'm sending her $500,000 per year. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is
That's
from
not
Ashley. She
good.
retorts,
Why would...
Elon,
Hold on.
we asked you to...
How would you... Okay, if he's admitting that, if that's what he'll say publicly, there is something there that he does not want. Hold on.
Confirm paternity through a test before our child, who you named, was even born. You refused. You aren't sending me money. You were sending support for your child that you thought was necessary until you withdrew most of it to maintain control and punish me for disobedience. But you're really only punishing our son. It's ironic that your last effort in court was to try and to gag me while you use a social media channel you literally own.
I would not be surprised if Elon liked the gag.
To distribute derogatory messages about me and our child to the entire world. It's all about control with you, and everyone can see it. America needs you to grow up, you petulant man-child. So that's where we are, Crystal.
I think they kind of deserve each other, to be honest with you.
I think they deserve each other as well. You're absolutely right. And that is...
Wait, what did she do? Why does she deserve? All she did was sell a Tesla. Wait, why is she bad? Hold on. Had an article sent to me. AP, kill yourself. Oh my God. Republican win Florida special election. Trump strongholds by narrow margins. Anything interesting? Special elections, low turnout. How voters swung pretty fucking hard. Oof. God damn. That's a swing. Trump takes credit for the win. I don't think you want to do that, bud. I think he's correct. Damn. That's bad, man. That's a fucking swing. Oh my God.
Wow, I don't know. I am in a tough position, you know. People know I've got a very conservative disposition, so would I act myself like Ashley St. Clair? There's never in a million years where I could endorse that type of behavior. However, people know I've got you to grow up, you petulant man-child. So that's where we are, Crystal. Ashley St. Clair.
I think they kind of deserve each other, to be honest with you.
What did she do?
You're absolutely right. And that is... Wow, I don't know. I am in a tough position, you know. People know I've got a very conservative disposition, so would I act myself like Ashley St. Clair? There's never in a million years where I could endorse that type of behavior. However, you know, you father a child with somebody, you're signing up for a contract with that.
What, she just publicly sold a Tesla and trying like... Like, oh, I told reporters this prick isn't paying me money. Like, what the fuck? What'd she do?
Person for life, so openly sitting there and going to war over monetary payments and paternity.
Litigating a child's paternity on Twitter is
like,
disgusting.
It's too much for me. So, look, I mean, Elon...
What? Crystal. All right, I don't get this take. I genuinely do not understand this take. If you won't accept the paternity, go to the court of public opinion. What the fuck is wrong with this?
He's like a paragon of good character is ridiculous with somebody who has fathered children with like multiple different women and often has like insane relationships with them and his ex-wives.
I also thought it was funny or insightful the way she tries to needle him with the Tesla in particular. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously, all these photographers happen to be there when she's selling the Tesla to Carvana and having it, you know, loaded up to be towed away.
Can we not feel bad for the Carvana guy? He's like, what the
He's like, what did I get myself into today?
Yeah,
he's got a good story.
Poor
you
guy.
know, he's got a good
right.
story. But it definitely made his workday much more interesting. But yeah, she clearly, like, she wanted them there.
Yeah.
She had planned out the things she wanted to say about Elon, the Tesla stock.
Can this race be fucking called? I want to get the fuck out of here already. I am hungry. Jesus Christ.
Thing. Like, clearly that bothers him a lot. And so she's trying to use that to get at him. And, you know, yeah, it's wild. I don't know. There's, like you said, you were asking me, like, who do we cheer for?
Yeah, we're not cheering
for no one to cheer for in this whole situation. It is, I guess the part that to me was the most grotesque was him jumping in and being like, I don't even know if the baby's mine. Like,
right, yeah, exactly.
That is ugly, and this is a human being who is going to grow up and be able to see these things that you said. So, yeah, that is pretty disgusting.
Yeah, right. And he's got, you know, adult children, literally, who could go and who are looking at the behavior of your father. I don't know, man. There's a lot of lessons for life, and basically, don't act like either of these individuals, and you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. But unfortunately, if you look at the data,
I'm actually curious how aggro is Sauger getting towards Republicans lately? Because I've heard some pretty spicy things. Okay, they probably disagree. Okay.
All right, let's get to Trump 3.0.
Here we go.
So apparently in this interview with NBC News, Trump made it quite clear that he plans on seeking a third term in office. Let's put this up on the screen. Kristen Welker was doing the interview here. She said, "Are you joking about this?" He says, "I'm not joking." When asked to clarify,
Christ.
"I'm not. It is far too early to think about it." When asked whether he's been presented with plans to allow him to seek a third term, Trump said, "There are methods which you could do it." He also was asked whether that could involve running J.D. Vance and then him basically like sort of taking over for J.D. Vance. And so they said a possible scenario in which Vice President J.D. Vance would run for office, then pass the role to Trump. Trump responded that that's one method, but there are others too. Asked to share another method, Trump simply responded no. So Steve Bannon has been out there saying similar things, you know, seeming to, I mean, he has said quite clearly that they're going to figure out a way to get Trump to run for a third term. The constitutional language is as clear-cut as it could possibly be. There is literally no ambiguity there. Did you pull it up? You want to read it for us?
I can read it for everybody. I was looking at it this morning just to get the exact text. No person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. No person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. This article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when this article was proposed by Congress Congress shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during the term within which this article becomes operative from holding the office of president or acting as president during the remainder of such term. So the background is 22nd Amendment was passed Congress in 1947, was ratified by the states in 1951. 1952
Yeah, that's
is the first
not going to
presidential
happen.
election
SCOTUS won't
under
disqualify.
the new rule under President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who subsequently was elected to 2 terms. And the background of it, as we have discussed here, the 22nd Amendment was, in my opinion, a severe overreaction to FDR seeking the unprecedented 3rd and to 4th terms. The Congress at the time was very upset at how much power FDR had accrued under his
God forbid someone be
12 or so
popular.
years while he was in office. They wanted to make sure that it never happened again and to try and to ratify the 2-term norm that was set by George Washington actually into law. But now it is the law of the land. It is the Constitution of the United States. I was thinking, you know, even in terms of how that whole like JD would run and you could hand it off to him.
Yeah.
As the Constitution makes clear, no person who has been elected president twice can serve again as president. So he would actually not be in the technical line of succession there.
Right. Yeah. So you could not even, you know, constitutionally put Trump as like the VP on the ticket and then have JD step down, et cetera.
Well, even if Trump stepped down today and handed it over to JD, he still would never be elected or be eligible,
right?
Because it says no
'Cause he
person
got
who has been elected twice elected there. The definition is ratified victory by the Electoral College, which has now happened twice.
Let's go ahead and listen to some of the ways that Steve Bannon has been talking about this, because I mean, I have been taking seriously this possibility for a while because Bannon has been pretty consistently talking about it.
Jesus
and,
Christ,
you
can
know,
they
there
call
was
this
even at
fucking
CPAC,
race?
there was a whole booth set up there about we want Trump to be, you know, our Red Caesar. We want him to be able to serve a 3rd term, et cetera. And listen, this is a man who, when he did lose the election in 2020, refused to accept defeat. Like, he did not want to give up power. And so I don't think any of us should expect that he's going to be willingly, like, accept giving up power this time around as well. So I think you have to take seriously now that you have Bannon and you have Trump being quite clear that he intends to seek a 3rd term, you have to take it seriously and start thinking through the scenarios of how he could even theoretically try to accomplish this goal.
Christ.
With all that being said, let's go ahead and take a listen to C3 Steve Bannon talking about this possibility.
I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. You know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue, because I don't want people to listen to our interview and say Bannon's cooking up an insurrection. Bannon is cooking up. You know what I mean? I want people to get a straight take on where your head is. What are you suggesting?
Chris, as you know, I've had greater long shots than this. When we supported President Trump after the election, I realize you don't believe the election in 2020 was stolen. We do. We fervently believe that. We're not prepared to talk about it publicly, but in a couple of months, I think we will be.
Jesus. But you are not suggesting revolution or overthrow or anything that people would condemn.
Chris, we just won one of the biggest sweeping victories. We're in the middle of a 1932 type realignment if we can continue on and continue to have populist policies, populist nationalist policies. We have African-American men coming to our side.
So again,
well,
I mean, I guess
at least that's a little comforting.
Try to come up with some sort of like cockamamie legal theory. But even that, because the language is so clear, I'm not sure how they would do it. You know, I have been thinking about this. One of the things that I did consider is that you, whether it's J.D. Vance or Don Jr., you run someone who basically is like a puppet figure. I mean, this is kind of what Putin did in Russia, right?
Oh, like a Medvedev.
Like a Medvedev.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he's technically the president, but Trump is the one who's really pulling the strings. And, you know, if you...
And that's probably what they have to do, because in reality, it would also be a great way to create a transitional brand for somebody. And that's how it would have to be. So, which is probably what I think will happen.
If that's the plan, then it sort of makes sense that he withheld his support from J.D. Vance as his successor, because J.D. Vance has to prove himself that he will be a total, willing, compliant puppet for Trump.
Well, if that's the case, you should just go ahead and pick your son, Donald, because no self-respecting person, I think,
and maybe that's
Right.
why he isn't getting behind JD. I consider that possibility. I also thought through, like, you know, Trump has been. They've been threatening the court.
All right, I'm out of here when
and
this
trying
video
to,
ends.
you know,
I'm
pressure and bully
hungry.
them and defying, I would say, some of the court orders. They have been using the weight of the federal government to punish states for doing things that they don't want the states to do, you know, launching investigations, withholding federal funding. You see the same playbook with regard to media outlets, with regard to law firms, with regard to universities. You could use some of that pressure to, like, you know, let's say, okay, Trump runs the Republican primary, he wins the nomination, then it comes down to what our state's going to put him on the ballot. You could use some of that pressure to try to coerce states to go along with this, but I don't know. My mind is not devious enough to come up with the scenario of how this ends up working out for him. But like I said, I think you have to take it seriously, given that this is not a man who willingly gives up power. And he's saying quite openly, and I think one thing we've learned about Trump 2.0 is the things that he says he's going to do, and many things beyond that, he is entirely serious about.
I think it's possible. I also think that his ego is just so fragile at the idea of having to pass on power. And all presidents who are two-termed struggle with this, right? Like Reagan famously, he didn't particularly love the HW, and he didn't really want to hand the reins over. His wife wouldn't even, give him a tour.
Fucking hell.
These people, psychologically, these people are crazy. I mean, you really need to think about it. And so that's what it takes to be able to get up to this level. So for Trump, I'm beginning to see now the reason why he doesn't want to endorse JD or Don Jr. or anybody is because the idea that you could hand over his life.
No, I think it's referencing FDR, Kiana.
President of the United States twice or three times, I guess, in his mind, over to somebody else it's just so psychologically wounding, because it's a subservient position, and it's one that he correctly views as, when you do that, you no longer are the kingmaker, right? There is a transition there where whoever
Has
he
Wisconsin
endorses
been called?
then becomes.
Yes. The Maine Supreme Court seat has been called. We kicked their ass. Now we await the superintendent.
Becomes the preeminent head of the party, and you lose a lot of your control and of your power. That is ultimately what I think drives him. As you've said too, though, I mean, I think that, look, if we were going to say realistically the way that this would ever happen, let's put C4 up there on the screen, where there's been an amendment to the amendment that has now been introduced, and it says, they introduced a House resolution to amend the Constitution to allow a president to be elected for up to, but no more than 3 terms. The language of the proposed amendment reads as follows. No person shall be elected to the office of president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which a president was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than twice, which basically means what? It means Obama and Clinton and Bush could not run for a 3rd term, but that Trump
Obama specifically is the target there.
Wait.
I'm not sure.
The amendment that has now been ultimately what I think drives him. As you've said too, though, I mean, I think that if we were going to say realistically the way that this would ever happen, let's put C4 up there on the screen, where there's been an amendment to the amendment that has now been introduced, and it says, they introduced a House resolution to amend the Constitution to allow a president to be elected for up to, but no more than 3 terms. The language of the proposed amendment reads as follows. No person shall be elected to the office of president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which a president was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than twice, which basically means what? It means Obama and Clinton and Bush could not run for a 3rd term, but that Trump.
Obama specifically is the target there. I'm not sure that Trump would beat Obama.
That's really fucking pointed. All right. I'm done. I'm done, everybody. It's been several hours. I'm sick of this. You're sick of this. I say we win. I'm calling it here. We kicked their ass. We destroyed them. Hold on. This is not flipping. Come the fuck on. It is technically mathematically possible for every single vote that comes in to flip. But that's not fucking happening. So, thank you all for joining me. Switching to camera one. Thank you all for joining me. I think we had a lovely time. We had some good segments. Somewhere in here is YouTube-worthy content. I personally think I'm a pretty charismatic guy. Personally, I think so. I don't know. That's for you to decide. Like, subscribe, but more importantly, become a dues-paying member of Progressive Victory. Link in the side chat. Somebody put the link in the side chat. I'm tired. Hold on, I'll find it. I did earlier. Well, I appreciate that, and I shall now do it again. Oh, you're based, Ted. Oh my God, you're awesome. Thank you all so much. Have a good night. I'm going to go jump in one of the other watch party VCs while I will do to my plate of food what we did to Republicans in Wisconsin. You know what? I think I'm just going to stop here.